Greetings, everyone. This is Jean-Claude Mutuku, and welcome to the Canadian Me. We build communities one story at a time. How are you doing today? I hope this message finds you well. I hope this video finds you warm if you're in Canada and that you're taking a very good care of yourself. Personally, I've been dealing with a little bit of flu, as you can hear from my voice, some hiccups and stuff. So yesterday, actually, I wanted to film the video, but I just could not do it because of how, terrible my hiccups were. But you know what? I'm thankful that we got to do this one today. Listen, before we start, I think it's great to acknowledge that we're just a few hours away from 2026. And I hope that you are excited as I am, because I believe that this year, the upcoming year, 2026, presents so many opportunities because there is so much that we learned from 2025. And I believe that if we get into the new year with a great perspective or with a great sense of preparation, then we will be able to deal with whatever it is that the year is going to throw at us. And so I thought I should just do this podcast to remind us of what key things we learned from 2025 going into the new year and how we can prepare ourselves to basically take on that year with a great sense of determination to ensure that all the issues or challenges that we may have faced, we can better basically take on all the opportunities and address whatever issues that may come with a great sense of certainty, but also, I'll say, realism, because let's be honest, this year 2025 has been quite a challenging year. So here are the top 5 things that I know we learned from last year that can help us kind of prepare ourselves for the upcoming year. Number one, unemployment among the youth, but also people the elderly, was a little bit high. And I believe that this particular problem did not only impact, new immigrants to Canada. I think every single person felt it. Many students graduating from universities, from high institutions such as colleges, had a very hard time finding work. Some people even taking up to a year to find their work. But as well, those who found work, there was an element of misalignment of skill, but also people taking on like low-paying jobs just to get some money or to get some financial, independence. So there was a lot of competition in the market. I think the supply of jobs was very, very low compared to the number of people who were looking for work. So that, adding on the number of newer students coming into Canada, applying for student visa, work permits and XYZ, I feel kind of like made things a little bit challenging for everyone. So going into 2026, understanding that unemployment will definitely also continue being a problem. We need to be more strategic. We need to be more prepared. We need to become more competitive and creative in how we apply for jobs. And perhaps it's not just about applying for jobs. Maybe it's about creating jobs as well. So we have to think about that. So instead of just, focusing on you finding that perfect job, we have to start thinking, okay, how can we create those jobs? And I know that's quite complex, but that is something that we can talk about moving forward in future podcasts. I want to bring people who have that entrepreneurial experience and tell us, okay, what particular sectors could we leverage right now? What skills could you use to actually meet the current demands? Because believe it or not, there are still some areas where people are still looking for certain skills. For example, construction and a lot of jobs that will be qualified as blue collar jobs. There are so many things that I think we can open ourselves to. There are some businesses that we can still do, and you know what? Going into 2026, we will explore some of these ideas. Number two, housing. Yes, housing and affordability were such a big challenge for so many people. And I believe that a lot of people really did struggle. And housing continues and will be one of the key issues that we have to deal with going in 2026. Now, how we fix that issue, I think that's a little bit more complex. And I will try to find people who have more experience or understanding of how the housing market works to come and tell us about what to expect in the upcoming year. But most importantly, on how we can prepare ourselves to for what is actually coming ahead of us. Whether you're looking to buy your first house or you just thinking, or I'll say juggling, or trying to do a cost benefit analysis to understand whether to purchase a house or to continue renting. Those are some of the other discussions that I think we'll be exploring. But I think going into 2026 with an understanding that housing continues to be a big problem for so many Canadians will be a great thing. Also, if you're planning to come to Canada, you have to prepare yourself for the very competitive housing market right now. There aren't as many opportunities. There is a family that I know that came from Congo, a family of around, I'll say 5 people in total. So a parent, 2 parents, and they are three kids. They had a very, very hard time finding a place to live because many people preferred, you know, renting their homes to students instead of larger families. So that's something that you have to keep in mind. Housing will continue to be an issue. Both people looking to rent a house these days, it's extremely hard to find homes because there is a competition, there is a large list. Landlords and are looking for a very long list of things to check on. Like for example, do you have a full time job? What's your employment history? What's your I don't know. There's so many things they're asking for. So moving into 2026, I think that will continue. But we will continue addressing these issues with guests who have more knowledge on this particular issue. Number three, and this is mainly for people who are from immigrant backgrounds, systemic barriers and issues pertaining to, you can say, entry and maybe discrimination when it comes to work. There are so many people who are overqualified who will continue to face issues going into 2026. So I've talked to so many people who maybe had a good job back home. They were doctors, some of them were lawyers, some worked in finance, but when they come here, their experiences are not kind of considered. And that's an issue that faces so many people coming into a new society. And I think it will continue in the upcoming years to 2026. So how do you prepare yourself for this competitive marketplace, for a system that sometimes does not acknowledge your own qualification? So if you are a professional coming into Canada or coming into these countries, you need to be more strategic. You also need to be very realistic that, hey, you may come here and the things, the experiences and the accomplishment that you may have had back home may not be acknowledged here. So you have to be prepared and change your mindset and be adaptable, because sometimes people are so locked into what they used to do back home, and when you come into Canada you realize, oh shoot, people don't really care about what you did back home. They don't care about the position you had back home. What they care about is maybe the skills and new experiences, but also your ability to adapt, your ability to change, your ability to change the course of your career. Maybe back home you're a doctor. Well, are you willing to become a nurse here? Are you willing to take more courses that can help you, I don't know, find more about how the Canadian healthcare system works? Are you willing to shift? Are you willing to basically do something totally different? So you have to be quite open minded. And again, we will talk with people who have that experience in the upcoming podcast to tell us how we can best prepare or how we can best integrate and adapt to the new cultures. Systemic barriers will continue to impact people, not just for 2026. I also think that in upcoming years, that's an issue that so many people have to face, especially immigrants coming into a new country. Other people, the other segment of people that also will be impacted by this whole systemic thing are new graduates. So, as you know, last time I'm sure when you last applied for a job, you saw so many people are looking for employees with significant number of experience, but honestly, most people who come from university, they may not have, or they may not possess the amount of experience that many employers are looking for. So this competitive marketplace and the systemic issues, I think, will continue to impact not only immigrants but also recent graduates. So please think about that as we go into the next year, because I think we'll have some good tips, some good conversations that could help us to address some of these issues. Number four, poverty. Oh yeah, poverty is a real issue right now. The cost of living has skyrocketed. The people's purchasing power has gone down significantly. The price of food has gone up, but people's salaries, feel stagnant. And for some reason, it really just feels like people are feeling less and less powerful when it comes to what they can purchase. So the issue of poverty, especially among young people and older Canadians who may not have enough money coming in due to their retirement, or they did not save enough. And maybe it is not their fault, because some of these older immigrants, some of these older Canadians are immigrants who never really got enough opportunity to work in Canada, so they did not save enough money, and so they're finding themselves living, under the poverty line. And honestly, I personally know people within my own surrounding, even family, who are really, really struggling. It's not because they don't want to work; it is just that they're a little bit older. They cannot compete with younger employees, and they just don't have enough money saved, put aside to live a comfortable life. So poverty is becoming a big issue. And as I said, I feel like many immigrants, especially those who immigrated to Canada a little bit older, are facing this issue. poverty. But it's not just them. There are many Canadians as well whose purchasing power has gone down significantly, as I said, due to, I don't know, rising cost of living, and the money they have or they put aside was just not enough. So that will continue to impact people. So as a society, working with people, working with not-for-profit organizations, we need to sit down on the table and really see, okay, how can we address some of these issues going into 2026, but also just beyond 2026. So that's something that I would like to explore a little bit more. So poverty and economic I'll say challenges faced by so many Canadians. And then number five, the shifting public perception or attitude towards immigrant. Yes, unfortunately, whenever there is an issue pertaining to uh, cost of living going crazy and unemployment and God knows what, unfortunately, society, and I don't know why we haven't learned this, society tends to shift the blame on immigrants. And unfortunately, I think that's quite misleading and it's quite dangerous. Moving into 2025, 2026, I think we'll have to be really mindful of that, to think about the issues that are really impacting us and try to honestly be quite realistic about them. Are immigrants really the problem to whatever Canada is facing? I personally don't agree. I think immigrants contribute significantly to the economy of this country. When you think about international students and the amount of money they have brought into this country, it's quite a lot. And so to just assume that every single problem, including housing, can be blamed on them, honestly, is very unfair. So going into 2026, we have to think about addressing the real problems that maybe we are facing right now. Maybe building more homes that could address some of the issues, maybe paying people a livable wage. I don't know if that's maybe thinking about equity in employment, maybe thinking about more job creation, maybe thinking about acknowledging people's qualification from abroad. There's so many things that we can think about instead of just focusing on, oh, immigration has been a big problem, and maybe if the policies are being a little bit unrealistic, we should maybe advocate for more sustainable immigration policies. Immigration policies that encourage newcomers to come to Canada, but also to ensure that we have the infrastructure, the housing that people need to live, comfortably, but also to contribute to this country with a great sense of pride. Because believe it or not, there's so many immigrants whose main objective is to give back to this country that has been so good to them, including myself. I'm an immigrant, so I understand that. What I personally think I do contribute to this country either through volunteering, through paying taxes, through there's so many ways that personally I have contributed, and there are so many more people who are doing even more than I am. Shifting the attitude or shifting the blame on immigrants, I don't think is a fair way of doing things. I think is very um, unfounded in so many ways. And so we have to address the issues as they are. If it's unemployment, let's create more jobs. If it's housing, let's find out how, let's work together to build more housing. If it is culture, well, maybe we should talk a little bit about what does it mean to be Canadian, because honestly, that comment or that concept is a little bit vague. And so perhaps by identifying what it means to be Canadian and talking to people, collaborating with many multicultural groups within Canada, being open-minded, understanding each other, learning from one another, that itself could help to address this whole shifting public perception and attitude toward immigrants. One, immigrants, just to conclude on this particular piece of shifting attitude toward immigrants, I personally think immigrants do add a lot to the Canadian values. They add a lot to the Canadian economy. They add a lot to the Canadian identity, and so we need to put a pause on this whole mindset that so many people do have and say, well, wait a minute, maybe the problem is not just immigrants. Maybe the problem is not just unsustainable immigration policies. Maybe the problem is not this. Maybe the problem is way more complex than we think. And we, I think, by working together, blacks, whites, South Asian, East Asian, like if you're in Canada, let's zone in on what we can do together holistically as a country to address some of these issues. And I think by uniting around these issues, by investing our creativities on addressing these issues, we could actually, I think, we will quickly realize that we have so much that unites us than what divides us. So think about it. I don't know if that made any sense, but that particular issue of shifting public attitude and the shifting political climate itself, um, I think it's one of the problems that we will have to address going into 2026. And I think I really do believe that if we approach it from a united front, then we could definitely address some of the issues that are dividing us. So those are the five things. I'll repeat them. So one is unemployment. I think it will continue to be an issue. Housing will continue to be an issue in 2026. Systemic barriers, to entry, especially for those immigrants or new graduates. Please be mindful of that. Poverty, yes, poverty remains a big problem for so many people, especially older Canadians. And then the shifting public attitude towards immigrant. I think that's another issue that we'll have to deal with. Apologies. Now that we know about all these things, how do we get into 2026? As I mentioned, we have to be prepared. And I think by understanding what issues and challenges await us will allow us to be well equipped to face whatever challenges that are coming or that we'll be facing in 2026. So, understanding these things, understanding that they do exist, not ignoring them, will allow us to prepare ourselves for the upcoming year. The other thing as well is just, let's be open minded, man. Like, as I said, the last point that I mentioned about the shifting attitude, to be honest, sometimes it's just because we are not well aware of the problems that different people within Canada may be facing. So be open minded, learn from other people, diversify your own circle, because honestly, if you look around and everyone who's around you looks like you, speaks the same language as you, shares the same religion as you. I'm not saying that's a problem, but I would like to challenge you to try and diversify your group. Try to go. Canada is very rich when it comes to multiculturalism, so make a good use of it. Go out there in other people's communities, in their culture groups. Try to be open and try to learn from them. And as I said, you will quickly realize that there is so much that we share. The love for Canada is shared by so many immigrants. So be open-minded, diversify your friend circle, learn. And when you going out there to learn, you know be open. Be open. Allow your perception of society to be challenged. And then from there you will quickly realize that, hey, we have so much that that we can share, that we have so much that we can draw on, so many experiences, skills, and perspectives. If you allow your perspective to be a little bit challenged, if you allow your point of view to be changed, I think that'll be a great thing. So if there is one thing that I can encourage you, as a first step, please, if your circle is not as diverse or is not reflective of the Canadian composition right now, because as you know, if you go outside, you'll see that there are so many people, different shades and colors and cultures and religions. Please be open minded, and then from there, you'll quickly realize that, hey, these people are not our enemies. These people are not necessarily the reason why we are where we are right now. These people are not the source of the problem that we have. In fact, they could have so many answers. But all you need to do is be open minded and be willing to listen. And from there, well, I think we will find some robust solutions to some of the issues that we're facing. Now, to many immigrants out there, if you're listening to this podcast, I would also like to challenge you on one thing. As I said, personally, I'm an immigrant, but I've also understood that, me coming to Canada is not just me bringing my culture. It's not just about me imposing my own experiences from back home, in East Africa, in the Congo, and XYZ. No, it's not just about that. I think to be Canadian, at least for me, when it comes to the issue of, what does it mean to be Canadian, at least for me, I think it's all about contributing, but also being open to learn from this particular society that I'm in. I came to Canada with after spending 17 years of my life in Africa. There are so many great values that I brought with me, and believe it or not, I have shared some of those values with my friends, with my colleagues at work. Things like respect for, elders, being polite, and all those kind of things. Entertainment, in Africa, especially in Congo, we love music. I have performed, giving back through volunteering. I've done all of that, but also I've had to learn about a lot of things that Canadians, or that have defined this country. Things like, being open-minded to other cultures, things like civility. Yes, these concept, I think they're universal in many cultures, including my own. But civility within the Canadian context might be a little bit different. Things about generosity, giving back, as I say, through volunteering, the things around stewardship, things around courtesy. All of those things, I think, are things that I have had to take quite seriously, because they define what it means to be Canadian, at least from my own experience. Coming into Canada, these are things that I saw. And I think, as a person who has been welcomed in this wonderful country, I have had to sit back and say, okay, what am I finding, and what are those great things that I can also learn, and then just add to the beauty that it is to be Canadian. And believe it or not, I have done my best, and I'm still doing my best to learn about what it means to be Canadian. So, as immigrants, as we come into these countries, let's not forget that, in many cases, I'll be very clear about this. In many cases, a lot of us, including myself, we are very fortunate to be in this place. Yes, I repeat, for me, I'm very fortunate to be in this place after coming from a country that has been crippled by war. Even up to now, the DRC, especially the eastern part of Congo, is still going through so much. So, being in a country where I see peace, being in a country where I know I can go to bed without the fear of being coerced to join some group or whatever, being in a country where I can breathe, a country where I know if I want to study, even if it's a student loan, I can still have that opportunity, is such a privilege. And it's something that I don't take for granted. So, as a person who has immigrated to this country, I know that, hey, there are some values that I have to follow. you know Environmentalism, these are things that we can learn from the indigenous cultures. How do we preserve our environment? How do we keep our environment clean? Things like those. I think, as we go into 2026, let's open our minds. It's not just about the people who are hosting us. So, people who were born in this country. It's also about people who came to this country, you know uh changing our mindset, being open to the values of this country, and then sharing the good things about our cultures and experiences could help to strengthen and unify this country. Because, believe it or not, 2025, as you saw, especially during the political changes in government, there were some divisions, and people, being a little bit more, as I said, pointing fingers at certain people. What I think, there is a lot of um, unification or unity that has to be done going into 2026. And I look forward to sharing more stories on this podcast so that we can move forward, and then all contribute to this beautiful country that we all care, the country called Canada. Once again, I am not really 100%, but I thought I should publish this podcast as the season's finale for this particular year. And then I look forward to celebrating 2026 with you, learning through our shared experiences and stories. And man, I can't wait to start the new year, because I'm quite excited. I think 2026 is going to be a year where so many of us will accomplish quite a lot, including you. Listen, stay strong. Know that we're here, and happy 2026. And yeah, I look forward to continuing to build this community. Thank you so much. And again, this is Jean-Claude Mutuku on the Canadian Me, where we build communities one story at a time. Cheers.